Welcome, everybody. Good day. Thank you very much for joining this session. It was really nice to see the interest in this particular topic. So just as a reminder, so this session is to discuss best practices, mechanisms for the localization of GIS capacity in GIS response. So I'm just going to provide you a very quick 1 to 2 minute welcome and intro before handing over to our colleague Joseph. My name is Olivier. I'm joined by my colleague Eric of Esri. And we really started this, we thought of this session because what we would like to do is participate, contribute to the collective discussion around localization of capacity and placing GIS technology more in the hands of local and national entities that respond to humanitarian operations. We have a very interesting model to learn from and to draw from, and this is what we're going to be hearing about today with WeRobotics, Joseph, and colleagues from the Flying Labs. We have a tight agenda, so I will let you all introduce yourselves as you come on. And once we've heard from the Flying Labs, we'll wrap up the presentations, but open it up into much more of a two-way conversation, hopefully, to learn from you about what are existing initiatives for localized capacity development, what are the networks that are out there, how should we best contribute and facilitate continuous improvement in that field. I will, while Joseph is speaking, I am going to share in the chat of this group a link to a Google Docs, in which you'll see the agenda, in which you'll also see a few points for discussion. So please browse through that as we talk, just so you can get your brains in gear. And also there's a table there in the third tab for you to add in your name and contact details if you wish, and if you would like to be part of and contribute to an ongoing discussion after this session. So thanks once again for joining, everybody. Joseph, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Olivier, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Mühlhausen. I'm the head of drone and data systems for WeRobotics. And today I'm going to present WeRobotics, our company, as well as the Flying Labs network. I'm joined by my colleagues from the Flying Labs network, and then Dania, Adewale, and Leka from Panama, Nigeria, and Tanzania. And they will briefly talk about their own experience within that network. So WeRobotics is a not-for-profit located in Switzerland and incorporated in the United States as well. And we are all about localizing technology. We believe in the power of local. We believe that local experts know best. And so we've invested resources, energy, and knowledge to implement this idea. What's the power of local? As I mentioned, the power of local starts with local expertise. People who have experience not only with technology, but also the local challenges that can arise from different types of issues, climate change, environmental disaster, and so on. You add to that, and this is specific to WeRobotics drones and the Flying Labs, obviously, as basically a tool to solve those local challenges, data analytics that help make this actionable to be able to then implement solutions, and then partners, which are very important. We wouldn't be able to do this without partners. What you get is a an acceleration of the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the kind of overarching achievement, but not only that. By leveraging local expertise, you accelerate knowledge exchanges, and I'll explain also the role of the network in that. You build local markets. You create interest in new technologies. You build capacity. You address social challenges, and also create job opportunities. Now, the tools and the analytics are used in 4 programmatic areas within the Flying Labs network. The first one is humanitarian aid. You may be aware of how drones are used in humanitarian aid. It can be mapping, it can be cargo delivery. Usually it's a quick turnaround. Drones are very effective at this. Public health also works with robotics and drones. This is an example actually from the COVID, mapping the density of people in a local market in Peru. Development, which includes business development as well as long-term sustainable development. You can see in the background, this is a river in Tanzania that's been regularly flooded, and in red are the households that probably should be relocated. And then finally, environment and climate change, which at a, let's say, local and small scale benefit from the use of robotics and drones. I mentioned the Flying Labs network. The Flying Labs network is a network of technology hubs organized by local experts, and you'll hear from 3 of them. It's mostly located in the global south, but not only. There are Flying Labs in Africa and in Latin America, South Asia, and so on. They all have their specialty, as I would say. Some are more focused on conservation, environmental restoration, climate change, disaster, and so on. So, and you can check each of them on their website, flyinglabs.org. So how does this model work? So at the top, you have, as I mentioned, the Flying Labs network, which is focused on local challenges. They work with local partners and clients directly, collaborate with, for instance, the civil aviation on new regulations, work with university on developing cutting-edge research on new types of data analytics, robotics systems, and so on. They also work with local clients and charge directly this client's service or fee for their expertise. And then at the bottom, you have WeRobotics, and we consider ourselves an enabler or a coordinator of the network. And our role in this is to first provide knowledge, provide direct connection, collaboration with global partners, which is very important, provide direct funding to the Flying Labs from global clients and donors, and finally coordinate the network, which is no small feat. This bottom-up model has some challenges and trade-offs. First one is that everything is co-created, meaning that every new project that affects the whole network is discussed with the Flying Labs, and this can be time intensive, that can use a lot of resources, but it also creates ownership. The network has some strong members and some members that are just joining and are learning some of the new knowledge that has been created by the network, and therefore the resources have to span this whole spectrum, which is also sometimes time consuming to create resources for everyone. Finally, this is a governance model, so there is no top-down approach, obviously, and it's up to the members to basically decide whether they want to take on a new subject or a new topic. It has, however, a lot of advantages. It's a model that's more sustainable because everything is co-created, so it's a discussion first. The network itself has a lot of knowledge created. So if one Flying Labs, for instance, works in a specific topic that may apply to a different region, it could be about regulation, working with the civil aviation. It could be about collecting data on small islands that are actually present in many Flying Labs locations. Then this is shared throughout the network, and this builds a collective intelligence. It also allows to scale up new concepts quickly, because once one member has tried it, then it's proven and other members can adopt it really, really fast. It's a resilient network. All members need to be sustainable. This is the client's fee, for instance. It's demand-driven. As I mentioned, everything is co-created, and the Flying Labs work on local issues and require knowledge that applies to those issues. And finally, it involves a lot of sharing and collaboration, which usually brings better ideas. A couple of examples of achievements from the Flying Labs. This one is from Senegal in Kermassar, rapid flood mapping done with the Senegalese Red Cross. This one, Cayo Zapati Island in Panama. This is a sea level monitoring and mitigation mapping project, which used also terrain, which you don't see here. And finally, Basharedanda in Nepal. They mapped this area in 3D to estimate the volume, the best area with the most volume to create a new landfill site. So now I'm gonna play a quick video of a Panama Flying Labs to give you a sense of, just start it. So there may not be any sound.
Yeah, Joseph, it looks like the sound isn't coming through again.
There's no sound, okay. So we have our colleague Dania, who is with us, who could say a few words probably during the video. Dania, if you don't mind.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Yes, my name is Dania. I'm part of an amazing team at Panama Flying Labs. We are part of the network, and this is a video that shares some of the project we developed in the 2019. Here you can see is a catamaran, is a project, is a boat developed by students from Pennsylvania and was adopted in Panama, where we were making the running test. All the people that you see here were students. This is a project, this one we switch, is a landfill. We map the area. This is in the center, in the urban area for all Panama City. And they used to use the drones just to take image and picture, but we developed a pilot project where we map all the area, and at the end, we deliver a 3D model that can help them in the estimation of volume of the garbage to take decisions in order to move or close and open new stage. This is another pilot project we developed in alliance with the Ministry of Health, where we fly over an urban area to identify mosquitoes' nest, fighting against the dengue. This is the Cerro Patacon landfill, where we were talking previously about the landfill. And this is our team. We are hosted in a university, So our main manpower are students. We have good alliance with Aeronautical Civil Aviation Authority. She coordinates the drone operations, and this is one of the key to reach, to develop our projects, to have good relations with key actors. This is me after a whole day taking videos. And this is our team. Basically, it's the power of a local. It means in having students working. Our main stakeholder and donor, the BIT Lab. And this is the area where we work, our lab. As I mentioned previously, students are the key. This is the UTP where we are part of. And these are some shots from the Cerro Patacon landfill.
Thank you very much, Dania.
You're welcome.
I'm going now to switch to Tanzania Flying Labs. Leka from Tanzania Flying Labs is going to talk a little bit about his flying lab as well.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Hello everybody. As Joseph has so eloquently explained, Tanzania Flying Labs is one of the flagship flying labs in East Central and a little bit of Southern Africa. And we are essentially, the bulk of what we do is to explore ways in which drone data can support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so we train various stakeholders from NGOs to the government, including the youth who want to provide drones as a service. And as I mentioned, we explore robotics and artificial intelligence use cases. And we have an incubation program as well that essentially creates business plans and helps the youth develop business plans for them to provide drones as a service. So some of the work we've been doing, for example, is very much into disaster management, but also disaster response. So we work with a number of partners in how to use artificial intelligence tools combined with drone data to, for example, identify damaged structures or the status of structures after a disaster event. Here is, for example, more of the machine learning tools. This is a particular tool that we developed with an organization called Patacon that can automatically generate building footprints from drone data. In the areas of health, so Tanzania is actually, I call it the drone capital of Africa, because there was a really massive project here called the Zanzibar Mapping Initiative. It's really the first one of its kind where essentially 2,400 square kilometers of land was mapped using drones. And from the subsequent drone data, we were able to then use artificial intelligence tools to identify water catchment areas. And then once those water catchment areas were identified, there was an intervention where we used, for example, what you see here, we call them anti-malaria drones to deploy larvicide in these areas. And this is an ongoing area where we're exploring not only the use of the drone data for the identification of these water catchment areas for mosquito vector control, but we're also then doing the intervention with sprayer drones to deploy larvicide. So agriculture is the biggest employer in Tanzania and most of the other sub-Saharan African countries as well. And so we are using drones to not only measure the size of farms, but we're also collecting multispectral imagery to determine the health of crops as well. And this is something that is still ongoing. And it's something that is very promising as well in terms of increasing yield and increasing food security in not only Tanzania, but the overall region as well. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, when it comes to agriculture, one of the most important aspects when it comes to the mapping and the use of GIS is to, once we have collected the drone data, one of the real keys is how can you translate that information? How can you transcribe it and take it back to the community and visualize it in a way that they can understand. So what we have here, for example, what you see is a drone map that we printed on a poster, and we're taking that back to these communities. And one of the really important aspects of this is for the very first times, the communities are able to see their farms, and then we're able to actually trace the boundaries of their farms. And not only can then they see the size of their farms, which is very important when it comes to planning and yield estimates, as I mentioned before, but it also creates, it actually documents for the first time the location and the boundaries of their farms for ownership. So it actually helps them get title deeds. So there's a participatory mapping exercise that we do with local communities that then helps improve their land tenureship, if you will. This program is a program we call STEAMbots. It's one that's near and dear to my heart because we work with the youth, really, elementary and high school students, inspire them, get them to really get their hands on the technology, and we do various exercises using the different themes that Joseph has mentioned, whether it's conservation, whether it's environmental protection, and the like. So again, this is an ongoing program, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to actually scale this further up in the near future. Yes, and so Tanzania Flying Labs is now, together with Senegal Flying Labs, are the only two flying labs on the African continent that offer official United Kingdom civil aviation general visual line of sight certification. This is one of the highest standards, drone certification standards in the world, and it's been a great success where, again, various drone pilots who intend to operate their drones commercially, not to mention other actors who want to get their authorization from the local civil aviation authority, come to us, we certify them, and then they can go ahead and either do commercial operations or scientific research as well, like what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Joseph, you're on mute, I believe.
Oh, thank you very much, Lika. We are now switching to Adewale, who is from Nigeria Flying Lab Southwest. Adewale, you can share your slides.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. From Nigeria, my name is Adewale Adegoke. I head the Flying Labs Nigeria. And as Joseph had mentioned earlier, our focus is developing local capacity, in robotics, artificial intelligence. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. So why Flying Labs basically for us? We particularly benefit quite a lot from the collaborative approach, from the continuous feedback mechanism, the local content, building local capacity. We've trained over 300 youth and graduates in smart farming in Ondo State so far. Strategic business partnerships, we've been able to use the platform to leverage, in forging strategic business partnerships with different organizations. And drone and data business acceleration as well. Flying Labs provides us with the inputs to be able to strengthen our core business activities, as a company running the Flying Labs Hub. And as you see, the Flying Labs Nigeria basically exists as an innovation hub, to catalyze transformative economic opportunities, because we see data offering insights into problems, to be able to create jobs, along the continuum of the key SDGs, which we always try to include in our activities. Our focus sectors include agriculture, environmental, humanitarian, investment, and partnerships. For agriculture, we have the Smart Farming Advisory and Technical Center, which is currently the first and the only one existing in Nigeria. The Smart Farming Advisory and Technical Center is organized as thus. On the left, we have which exists as the Agri-Tech Hub, and the operators are Orbital Solutions and Flying Labs. We have our partners, which all of us collaborate under the Smart Farming Advisory and Technical Center, so that there can be continuous exchange of ideas and innovation. The center provides services ranging from artificial intelligence and machine learning, capacity building, crop health monitoring, real-time farmer profiling, all of that. And the following slides will be showing you outputs of some of our activities. Here you can see outputs of activities in using our multispectral drones for cassava, for oil palm, and through our partnership with a local company in Nigeria called Agro Exchange, we have access to a real-time crop monitoring platform, which we use to support farmers. So on the crop monitoring platform, we're able to accommodate as many farmers as possible across Nigeria, which we're not able to do using drones. And with that, the farmers are able to see, we are able to, through extension workers, personnel, we're able to interpret the data from the crop monitoring platform to farmers, especially smallholder farmers, because our approach is to democratize the outputs of this technology so that smallholder farmers can find it affordable. And at the moment, I think we've covered close to 450,000 hectares so far in about 10 states in Nigeria. And for environmental, these are recent work from Edo College, Benin City, under the World Bank assisted New Gully elevation, which we completed just before the holidays. And here we have the aerial photo and the DSM, and these are my colleagues. Under the Flying Labs, we have 7 full-time staff made up of GIS analysts, data experts, and project management experts. For humanitarian, we conducted a drone flood assessment in Ondo State, in the southern area of Ondo State, in 2018, late 2018, which recorded quite a devastating event of flood in the area. And here you can see how we were able to convert the drone imagery to KML and use that to overlay on the Google imagery of the same area to be able to see the extent of flooding. Unfortunately, you can see that because we used parrot bluegrass, the rolling shutter effect, came into play. But right now we've moved on from that. And we have investments and partnerships. Through our partnerships, we always try to ensure that these strategic partnerships create incremental market value for our partners. So partnering with us means we are creating demand, for your products and for the services of our partners. And in leveraging these products, to transform lives and create job opportunities. And in agriculture, we apply data and technology collaboratively with our partners to optimize and accelerate investment options in agriculture. The image you can see there is the survey mapping that we did for the National Cotton Association in Nigeria. The main approach of this is to be able to, one, collect, identify where the farms are, their sizes, and also push this in the public domain so investors are able to identify, textile investors are able to identify the farmers, the farms, and also their compliance with good agronomic practices. This is not existing at the moment in Nigeria, but we're trying to push this out to be able to revolutionize the system. And here we have dashboards. Part of our deliverables are visualization. We have dashboard which we created for the Central Bank of Nigeria. And as you can see, what we did here is we linked the crop monitoring platform, which I showed you in the previous slides, to the dashboard. So all the mapping service providers for the Central Bank of Nigeria and the anchors who are requesting for credit, from the Central Bank for agriculture, large-scale agricultural investment, CBN is able to monitor all their activities from one single portal. And the second one is the Farming Pre-Investment Assessment portal, which we have recently recently concluded. And this is to be able to enable investors, private sectors investors in agriculture, to be able to carry out preliminary survey on the soil type, geology, drainage, and the suitability of the land that they want to acquire for agriculture and its viability for the crop that they want to plant. So this basically gives baseline information before they know, okay, this is the area that we need to invest our funds. Our main purpose is not just to catalyze opportunities within the drone industry, but to commercialize the data outputs within the drone industry and within the GIS industry mainly, to be able to use that in building stronger systems, within different sectors. So agriculture, mainly in Nigeria, is something that through government intervention policies has really increased, since about 4 years now. And its contribution to the national GDP, I think is about 30% now, or over 30%, which has created quite a lot of opportunities. But then again, the challenges are still there. Regulatory challenges, adoption of technologies by smallholder farmers who basically constitute about 80% of the agricultural workforce in Nigeria. And obviously, that particular scenario is limited by their disposable income. Our role is to enable the smallholder farmers increase their incomes and also improve their livelihoods. And with that, we also bring in the youth, into the picture, especially women, to build the capacity on using real-time data collection tools for mapping farms, and also constituting them into groups of e-extension staff to be able to use these same tools, in supporting farmers across the country. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Adewale.
You're welcome.
I'm switching back for one last slide to more or less summarize what we've all talked about. Our model can be represented this way. You start with a common denominator. In our case, is drone and data for social good. These are applied. These tools and this common denominator is applied at the local level to specific SDGs related challenges. It can be also capacity building. That in turn creates kind of local or regional ecosystems or new capacity where a specific project is scaled up. And that in turn leads to systems changed. Basically, the power of local becomes global. if that makes sense. So I'm gonna leave you with that, and then I'm gonna hand microphone back to Olivier and Eric.
Thank you very much, Joseph and team, for your presentations. Really enjoyed that, and I've always been a real admirer, I think, of this model. I really like I find it very impressive the way we're really seeing genuinely very localized and sort of sustainable capacity with a very innovative technology. So drone technology. Okay, you might say now it's becoming more and more mainstream. But certainly when WeRobotics kicked off this initiative, it was very innovative technology. And what we're here to discuss is really how this model, how this experience that you have had and that you've just shared with everyone might be drawn from to replicate this localization of capacity to a slightly different theme, in this particular case, humanitarian GIS. Just want to take 1 minute to explain the slide that you're looking at on the screen just now, before we then open it up to discussions and questions. I joined Esri just a couple of months ago from the Humanitarian GIS community, and my role at Esri is essentially to provide a strategic framework and manage a strategic framework around how Esri can contribute to the collective learning process of humanitarian GIS. We have a number of strategy objectives, including specifically localization of GIS capacity development, and also an objective around what you're looking at here, which is what we're calling the Humanitarian GIS Hub, which we're hoping will contribute a node to the network of GIS resources out there, but that would specifically, so this hub would specifically speak to use cases to humanitarian GIS use cases. So essentially help a sort of self-service to the resources that Esri in this case provides, organized in a way, organized around clearly defined use cases. And what we're hoping that this sort of hub allows for a much broader outreach and much broader ability for capacity development. So in a way, the community of practice which we would like to foster around that hub would be the community that we're speaking of now, would be ourselves, would be a sort of a more decentralized community of practice around the application of GIS and humanitarian response. So the central question is that we I think collectively, most of us around the table, probably around here, understand intuitively that GIS, that geographic thinking, that geospatial technologies have a lot to contribute to humanitarian response, to humanitarian resilience. On the other hand, we also recognize, and there's a very big movement towards more national and local ownership of capacity, local ownership of process. And so how do we join those two together? How do we best contribute GIS technologies, tools, methods, know-how to this broader movement of decentralization and of localization of ownership? It's an open question. It's something that you might have noticed, actually, if some of you who registered to this session early on, you might have noticed that our title has changed, our abstract has changed, and that's precisely because we ourselves are trying to grapple with the question, trying to frame the issue, and we want to learn how can we best do that. So this really, the last sort of 20 minutes of our our discussion is really intended to be open now, and what we would love to do is start hearing from you all regarding existing initiatives that might resemble or be analogous to what you just heard of here with the Flying Labs. Maybe discuss whether or not the Flying Labs model is something, is it directly applicable with some modifications, not at all applicable. So really over to you. I just want to share once again, I'm going to put this in the chat so that you've got it with you, the Google Docs that we have, in which you'll find, well, the agenda, but in the notes tab, you'll see some sort of guiding questions, which maybe we can start speaking to. So how do we frame this issue? What are the existing networks and partnerships and entities that are already working on developing GIS capacity specifically on humanitarian response? What are the best formats for that? And for example, is a Flying Lab style model something that could be appropriate for this? In the last tab, under the Partners tab, you'll find a table for you to also put in your name and contact details if you would like to be contacted, and if you'd like to contribute to this conversation. Can I ask then that you use the hand raised option on Teams here, and we'll do our best to then catch you in order, which I think it automatically puts you in order, and open the table, open the floor for any ideas, any comments, contributions to this overall initiative. Over to you all. And if you want to just jump in.
And it looks like we have one hand raised here. I think what I see is Jay Chapman. If you, I think I can take you off mute if you'd like to ask your question out loud or make your contribution.
Hi, thank you. I'm Janet Chapman from Crowd to Map Tanzania. Firstly, I can't see the chat, so I don't know if everybody else can, but I can't see the Google Doc that you're referring to. We're particularly interested, so we're working with female genital mutilation survivors and refusers in Mara, Tanzania, and we're very interested in training them to become drone pilots and to better map the areas so that girls can be better protected from FGM. So we're starting to talk to WeRobotics around this. So this has been an extremely interesting session. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Janet. Just in answer to your question about not seeing the chat, I don't know if this is an option on the settings, but I have on the top of the window, there's a little show conversation icon, which is what brings the chat up in case anybody else is having that issue. Are there any other questions or comments on this general initiative? Any ideas of existing initiatives that we should be connecting into? Just to reiterate, the idea of, for example, the hub that you're looking at on the screen is that what we would like to be able to do is refer users and visitors to the hub to those initiatives, and eventually, where required, if it doesn't already exist, but where required, foster a collective discussion, either directly through the hub or through a series of events and humanitarian GIS events. So any ideas that you can contribute that you would like to flag that needs to be part of that conversation, we would really appreciate. I don't actually see the raised hands. I don't know, Eric, if you're seeing
we actually have we have two here. So let me. I think Katie's went up first. So Katie, I'll take you off mute. Ask your question or to contribute. There you go.
Is this working? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm Katie Pickett from Cadasta Foundation in Washington, D.C. Joseph, we've been on many emails over the years. My first question was to ask who you guys were working with on titling in Tanzania. If you want to take that conversation offline, totally understand. But curious to hear who you're working with in Tanzania specifically on the titling process. And then my other comment is it's really great to see the GIS Hub, the Humanitarian GIS Hub. I'm curious if you guys are specifically looking for this to be more of an international based humanitarian hub, or as obviously Esri is based in the United States, technically. Then if you will also be pulling in from perhaps some of the other instances and issues within the United States as well, particularly thinking of how you can respond and or highlight any of the disaster resilience coming through Esri already, and the disaster response team, particularly having been from Louisiana where 2 hurricanes hit this past year. And also a federal FEMA employee. So just wanted to make that comment, kind of ask that, see how what you guys were thinking on that. And then lastly, just to say, wonderful, great to see that WeRobotics and Flying Labs has proliferated across sub-Saharan Africa, and particularly excited to see that you guys are in Nigeria now, and would really love to have a further conversation on potential partnerships and ongoing conversations we've had and pick them back up. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Katie. We'll try and pick the questions up in order. The first one was regarding the titling in Tanzania, if I'm not mistaken. Can you speak to that very quickly, or do you prefer taking that offline? I think that was Fileka, yeah.
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. So this was a use case that was actually this was a new region in Tanzania. It was a region called Shinyanga that was split into 2. So then it became Shinyanga region and Simiyu region. And then there was an investment plan that was created by a think tank. It was drafted by a think tank for that new region. And one of their goals was to increase milk production, and therefore they needed to create land use plans and the like in the new districts over there. So this was that the think tank approached us to see if drone data could support what's called the CCRO. Think of these as like traditional title deeds. If drone data could support the existing process, which is rather, it's kind of a long process because it involves surveyors, obviously, ground truthing. And so, whereas, just to give you a practical example, we were able to map an entire village that was approximately 35 square kilometers, 3,500 hectares in a day, and this would take surveyors weeks. So it would take more than one surveyor to do this in weeks, if not months. We were able to map it approximately in a day using 2 fixed-wing drones. And therefore, using that technique, if you quickly take the data back to the community and do this participatory mapping exercise, where they could actually trace their farms, this is one way that you could speed up the process towards getting these so-called traditional land deeds, CCRO. So this was a use case. In terms of actual implementation, this is something that is still pending, Katie.
Thank you, Leka. Very quickly on the second question, Katie, regarding the hub, it's very much intended to be outward facing towards the international humanitarian community, but indeed draw from experiences in emergency management, and the disaster response program, and generally the public safety sectors of Esri that have traditionally focused more on the Americas. So there's a lot of lessons learned in terms of operationalizing GIS for emergency management, which we're going to be drawing in and contextualizing to the specific use cases and the sort of operational realities of international humanitarian work. And as to bring it back down to this discussion, really putting that at the disposal of entities and networks and partners that sort of distributed entities and partners that want to implement those solutions to particular use cases. And I've forgotten your third question, Katie. But I also am aware of time. So sorry, Katie, what was your last question?
I actually think she's maybe muted again. I think her last question or comment was about the extending network of WeRobotics and seeing them grow.
Okay, great. Any further hands?
Yeah, we have a few more hands here. We have Jeffrey. I'm gonna take you off mute so that you can contribute. Jeffrey, I think I allowed you to unmute yourself, so you may actually have to go on and unmute yourself now. Okay, while we have that figuring out, we also have a hand up from Jordan. Jordan, I'm also going to allow you to unmute.
So yeah, hello everyone. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much for putting this together. I'm Jordan Emilio. I work at Villanova University, and we have an ongoing partnership with CRS in several country programs, as well as at sort of the Baltimore headquarter level. And I'm particularly interested in applications of drones and GIS for assessment of water infrastructure, particularly water resources management and sort of watershed surveillance purposes. So I'm curious if you know organizations that are focused on that, whether they're local or departments within CRS, and or if there's an interest somehow in doing research with universities in this space.
Does anybody want to take that question? We're from our point of view, of course, that sort of we're open to those collaborations. Are there any specific initiatives that would be in that space that would like to speak to Jordan's question?
I can answer from a technical standpoint, if, but I can also take it offline, Jordan. It's definitely it depends on the scale. So if it's large scale, it's better to actually rely more on GIS and satellite and other types of data. Where it's small scale, we can talk 10 square kilometers. I mean, you can do bigger than that, but if you want to be cost effective, then it's a great tool. Those small watersheds, you can do terrain mapping, you can do flood modeling, and so on. So yeah.
And Jordan, I'll offer up as something we could certainly extend this conversation offline. But there's a number of organizations or institutions I could think of that might be valuable to connect you with, and it may largely depend on where exactly you're working as far as geographically speaking. But a few large organizations that have those hubs would be the Surveyor program by NASA and USAID, as well as the CGIAR system. And again, if you identify that region you're working, we can kind of drill down on what type of institutions might support some of that work. I work closely with Catherine Clifton at CRS, so certainly feel free to reach out through her, or you can reach out to me directly through the Pathable app, and I'd be happy to continue that conversation with you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Are there any other hands, Eric? I'm sorry, I can't actually see them myself for some reason.
That's quite all right. Not currently. I think maybe Jeffrey was having some technical difficulty there.
Well, I can see quite a lot of you have put in your contact details to be part of ongoing conversations on this. This is very much a stab in the. I can see two hands actually, Jeffrey and two others. Sorry.
Oh,
No,
we have
it's you for
Jeffrey's
some
is
reason.
back up, so let's see if.
Well, while he comes back up, this is really a first stab in a first shot, let's say, at this. Thank you very much for putting in your names. We will absolutely be in touch with further thoughts and ideas on how we can push this idea forward. We'll be closing off in a couple minutes, but I do want to give a last chance for a last few thoughts and questions. So. Eric, was Joseph able to get back on? You're on mute.
Yes, I'm here now.
Hey, Jeffrey. All right.
Yeah, thank you. So just quickly, I also don't have access to the document via the chat, like Janet mentioned. She had an issue. I also have the same issue. So if there's another way you can share the document, that would be wonderful. But the other point I wanted to make was just around the topic. It's very important to transfer local ownership of GIS capacity in the humanitarian action. I work with a humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, and this is also something that we are really much interested in. We'll be working with local OpenStreetMap communities in about 94 countries, and working with them to develop local GIS capacity, and so that they can be able to do humanitarian response on their own. One question which I had was just around open data. So from the work that the Flying Labs does, I think there will be very much value in trying to open up data that is created through their work, because this data could also be useful, like for OpenStreetMap communities who are trying to create detailed maps in different places, which they also share publicly. Because one of the issues that they face is poor resolution imagery. When you do mapping in places which are like informal settlements, it really makes it hard to do mapping using satellite imagery. So the drones image, which is always higher resolution, makes the mapping easier. But some of this data is not always publicly available. So just trying to put a point there that there is real value in opening data up, which also avoids duplication of resources, because two different organizations don't have to do like mapping in the same place. If they can share resources, then much more capacity can be shared at a global level. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Absolutely. I mean, so there's two sides to that question, right? There's the data, and the local initiatives and regional initiatives to generate data, which is the base of all of this. And then there's a question of what we do with that data, and the skills, the capacity, the technology that are in place to leverage that data and really derive value from it. So those two conversations have to happen hand in hand. The humanitarian OpenStreetMap community is a fantastic source of that information, and it's great to be connected on this. And I think when we manage to have clarity on the use cases and on the use cases for what to do with that data, then we'll start to see, I think, a lot of momentum going there in leveraging all of that information. So yeah, thank you very much for that. We're about to hit our time, so I just wanted to. Eric, are there any further hands up?
I think we just had another, maybe it went up and down. I do want to just say that it looks like we do have Daniel here. But real quick, for those folks who are having troubles accessing the document, I did also post it in the Pathable in the chat, in the discussion on the Pathable platform. So please look there for it. We'll be sure that it's posted in the session description as well. And obviously this will keep open for after the session. So please continue to fill out if you have contributions there or are interested in participating and being involved. Daniel, I think we have maybe a quick minute for one last comment or question if you want to contribute. I'll unmute you. Oh, I think maybe we lost. Hand went down, so.
Okay. Well, we're just about hitting the hour anyway. So just to thank you again for joining. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, WeRobotics and the Flying Lab team for your contribution. Just as a quick sort of next steps. So Esri and WeRobotics are in discussions at the moment on quite open-ended discussions right now on how best to frame this question, how best to start structuring this sort of collective learning process. Those of you who put your contact details down, we will contact you about that as well, and try and organize further follow-ups, sort of structured discussions around this. Watch out for the Humanitarian GIS Hub. We're planning for a launch of that at the GIS for Sustainable World Conference in April this year, and so we'll at that stage have a home for all of these conversations, a home for these different initiatives, and really hoping that we can get the ball rolling from there. And in the meantime, please don't hesitate to get in touch. In fact, I'm not entirely sure that our contact details are obvious in the are they obvious in our profiles? No, not necessary. I'm going to put them down on the chat here. So, oops, that's esri.com. So please don't hesitate to be in touch with any further thoughts, any follow-up requests, and we will follow up with those of you who've expressed interest. Thanks once again for everyone. Look forward to being in touch with some of you very soon.